Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Horns and Hooves. We have today a special guest, Adam Marshall. He's been going all over the country trimming hooves. I think you started out trimming just a couple and then your name got out there and now you're traveling everywhere. Is that right?
Yeah, it kind of started out as a side project. I thought I'd kind of just go breed some cows and calve some cows for some people. Somehow I ended up at Taylor's place. And Taylor's really the one that got kind of the ball rolling, the whole Highlander thing. It's
Crazy.
insane how busy it is right now.
I see how far you've gone. I know that you did our friend's ACA registered, Jeremy Schulte's,
Oh, yeah.
for a while now, I think, haven't you?
Yeah, last spring I started there.
Last
Yep.
spring? Gotcha.
Yep.
So you see a lot of stuff by doing these.
That would be putting it mildly.
Stuff.
Even the stuff, people, and places, a lot.
This kind of might put you a little bit on the spot, but I feel like some of the biggest things in the mini crossbred breed, Highlands, whatever you've got crossed in there, we're seeing a lot of, we need to start working more on conformation issues, which starts with the conformation body, of course, but a lot of it has to do with feet. Bad feet.
It all goes hand in hand.
Yes. So in our breed, what we really need to start paying attention to the most is conformation, those feet. Also, I always say it, steering those bulls that should not be bred, because your bulls that don't have that conformation have I better not say that word. Bad feet should not be breeding.
Right.
If you're out there breeding a bad pair, that makes it even worse. So, from your standpoint, tell us about the feet.
So feet and foot structure is highly genetic. So Highlands naturally have a shallower heel, and a shallower heel always make the foot need to be trimmed more because they won't naturally grind it off. Okay.
When you're talking Highlands that they're used to being on.
Correct. So
Correct.
genetically, if you think about where the breed came from in Scotland, it's hills, it's mountains, and it's a lot of rock, not sand. Rock. There are very, very few places domestically in the United States that have a perfect condition for a Highland hoof. It just doesn't exist. Lori, your place honestly is as close to that as you can probably get, and having enough travel as well, getting around. Taylor, your ground is a little sandier, which is, one would think, you think sandpaper, stuff like that, it'd be great. Sand actually works like mud. So when they step in sand, that sand just kind of displaces. It's not grinding itself off at all. And a lot of the, let's call them novelty buyers, for lack of a better term, they just frankly don't have enough room as far as hoof health goes. They don't have enough travel back and forth to feed and water and where they're going to lay down and stuff like that. And they're probably overfed a bit much just because they're people's babies. Again, I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying you got to know it's going to be part of it. The other thing I'm seeing is, please don't give your little furry friend treats, high energy treats, every time you go out there. The hotter the ration, the harder it is going to be on those feet. So even though they've got a grass bale or a part alfalfa bale, stuff like that, if you're giving them high energy treats every time you go look at cows, once a day, twice a day, whatever it is, that adds to that ration and is going to make those feet grow that much faster.
That also, I mean, the time of year it is, sometimes you feed
for
more
sure.
and sometimes less
Yep.
when it comes to that. But I think you can also not maybe feed them as much. If you want to give them a treat, a couple here and there, but when you're feeding,
find a high fiber type of treat that doesn't have the fat and the protein to it all the time.
Because everybody loves to feed cattle cubes,
right,
because that's what they come to.
Which is fine every once in a while. When you're doing events and letting other people feed your cows, that's really hard on that calf's gut and in turn their feet, their structure, everything else, when this big blast of fat and protein is going into the gut.
Yes. I'll be honest, I get a lecture a lot from my donkey fairy here. She's like, are you feeding these guys cattle? We call it cake here. They get it once in a while. Donkeys don't get it all the time, but I'll tell you, my pets in the back here, they seem to, my cattle get a few.
Right. And if you're doing it to Taylor, when we were at your place, if we're just bringing them in, if you get them used to it 3 or 4 days ahead of time where they're just getting enough to get the taste of it and then moving them with it and stuff like that. I'm more talking like the people that have these calves in their backyard and they're going out there 3 or 4 times a day and giving them a handful of cubes. Like that's not
If you're going to do that, you need to put that into your ration, though.
right.
If you want to do that, that's fine. But you
Right.
need to cut back somewhere else to make sure everything's balanced.
Because that's
Because,
where
otherwise you're going to do it. Another way, the whole school class I went to, Graham School, was learning how to score cows. That was something that was really focused on. Like, everyone should be learning how to score your cattle. With our littles, right, our little minis, you should be able to look at it and be like, all right, she's on the hefty side. Like, I can't see hip or I can't see this. Or we got a big old booty on some of those guys, right? So, yeah, if you can score your cattle, then you'll know, too, am I helping their feet or am I not helping their feet?
Exactly. Feed, environment, and genetics are the 3 biggest things. And in my mind, environment is one of the biggest things as far as hoof health goes.
So you'd recommend, I know we talk about it on the boards and stuff, but putting rock around your water.
Rock around the water tank. Even if you have a smaller place, putting the water at the opposite end of where the bale feeder is, so that it forces them to walk back and forth, not have the water tank right next to the bale feeder where they literally will just, and we know they're pets. They're literally going to lay right there where they don't have to move for hay or for water. And that's just the way they are. If there's a way to put those 2 at opposite ends so it forces them to move, that'll be better.
Yeah, like our pasture, our new pasture, they have to go quite a ways. It's on a side hill, pretty much, where the water is on our 200 acres that we have. And same with up north. Now, we do have a small, which you've seen, the small place behind the house. And we did put rock around it, and that seems to help, but we still have a few with.
Right. That's just going to be part of it. Like I said, as long as everybody knows
Just
the
plan to
deal,
get them trimmed once a year if you can.
that would be best.
Yeah.
Yep.
If you can work on it and do it more than once, great.
Right.
But hope for once a year. That would help with those little
Exactly.
ones.
When they have the extra weight, what does that do with their feet, their walking?
So it naturally will grind those toes off more the way Mother Nature intended it to. As a hoof grows, it grows 2 different directions, from the inside out and from the outside down. So essentially, your outside wall, the white line that goes all the way around the outside of the hoof, grows from the hairline down, right? And everything that's on the very bottom, except for the outside edge, comes from the inside out. When you have more weight, it naturally grinds that bottom and more especially the outside area off quicker and more naturally. The white line, the outside edge, is where probably 80% of the weight of that animal's weight is carried on the outside edge of the hoof. So the more weight and the more travel they can have to naturally just keep grinding. I mean, it's like a fingernail. Think of dogs, right? If it's an outside dog that's moving around all the time, if it's a Great Pyrenees that I've got laying right next to me that's a pain in my butt, they're naturally never going to need their nails trimmed because they're always moving around. They're on gravel, they're on rock, they're doing stuff. But these inside dogs, they don't have that natural wear to those fingernails, to those toenails.
That's a great way to compare the 2. I think it can help people together.
Yep.
What else is something that you feel like would be a lot of these? I mean, what we want to do is share things that we wished we would have known before we got started. And I feel like it helps everybody, even if they've been in the game for years. I think whatever we have on here there's always tidbits of something. Is there anything that you want to share that with people going into?
I've got some notes here. So some of the things are like what to look for as far as, does your calf or cow or bull need a trim? Is if the fronts of their toes are touching, if they're starting to cross, obviously they're getting too long. Another big one that's highly genetic is what's called a corkscrew claw. Okay, what happens is the bones inside that hoof are not positioned correctly, and those bones actually rotate, and they will rotate from the inside out. It's very manageable, but it's not, you can't cure it. There's no cure to a corkscrew claw. You can manage it by trimming it once a year, making sure that calf is comfortable, but there's nothing that's going to fix that because the bone inside there is already curled. I would suggest, my personal preference, to not keep calves out of that cow for reproductive reasons, for reproductive purposes. You could use those cows as recips. You could use those cows just knowing that all those calves are going to end up in the freezer at some point, but I I would not use calves out of that animal for replacements of any kind because it's genetically inherited. Obviously, there's injuries that always happen that you've got to keep an eye out. The two infectious ones are warts and hoof rot. Warts will grow in between the claws in the back, and it will look like furry strawberry growing in between the toes. It's very painful, and those needed to be treated as quickly as possible and coated with either a copper sulfate or a zinc sulfate. Copper tox is a good retail name for those. Very, very, very contagious as well. So those animals need quarantined, ground needs cleaned, and once it's a nightmare to get rid of once you have warts. I just pray nobody ever gets it. It's horrible.
That is a contagious thing. The warts.
Very, yes. You could get them from, I've heard it, somebody has hauled something on a trailer that had warts. Then it goes, if the trailer isn't washed out, the next animals in there could get it. It's a bad deal. Really bad deal.
So this is a little bit different than, just so people are aware. You see them, they pop up once in a while, they get them on their face or they get them here and there. Those will go away. They are. And can they be contagious? They can be, but most of the time I feel like we just see them go away when they get into breeding age or they start breeding. You're talking about is a whole different type.
It's a whole different type. It's actually a fungus that grows in between the toes on the back of the foot. So that's the only place it will show up. Is they'll be three-legged lame in a day once they get it. It's that painful.
Like fire through your herd.
Right. It's really bad. I've dealt with a few beef places that have bought cows before that almost broke them, because it went through, it's a southern state, kind of in the southeast where it's warm and wet all the time, where that fungus just grows and grows and grows. I mean, they ended up calling like 60% of their herd because of these warts. Then cows just physically couldn't walk. It was horrible. Absolutely horrible.
Now, we know a lot of times in the wet weather, also creek, ponds, we can get hoof rot from that.
Right. So hoof rot is a little different. It's where it'll show up in the same place. It'll be in between the toes most of the time, and you'll see a swelling above the hairline on that hoof. Now, several ways to deal with it if you can get to it fast enough. Drugs like Adraxin or an Exceed. Sometimes an Oxytet works. A lot of the time it doesn't. It's not broad enough spectrum for it. That's if you can catch it within 24 hours and get a big dose of that into them, you'll be fine. And they'll get over it pretty quick.
We had a bull, and he's a contrapositive bull, so he was smaller. They actually removed like his phalanges. So he only has one part of his hoof. Yeah, one toe. That's what on cattle, I was trying to think of what I was. He only has one toe. They had to remove.
So my guess is he had hoof rot at one point, and what happened was it got into the bone. And when the infection gets into the bone, there is literally nothing you can do other than amputate that claw and hope that it stopped at the claw and didn't get up into the leg, because if it gets up into the leg, there's nothing.
That's what happened. We treated him, and he was up in our north pasture. And we have a man-made pond. God just decided to create a pond up there. And so he must have been in that. Who knows? He got foot rot. We treated it. He was doing so much better, but then he had a sudden decline. And that's when it had gone to the bone.
So foot rot is one of those things that sometimes it takes 3 or 4 different drugs to figure out which one's going to work. If that's the case, by the time you figure out sometimes which drug is going to work, you get to the situation like that.
That's what we had happen.
Yep. Now, if you can get that leg lifted up and can find some vet wrap and soak that foot, cover that foot in sugar, table sugar, normal table sugar. Sugar naturally will draw out infection. So if you can get some vet wrap, wrap that foot like a boot, essentially put a sock on him and fill that whole sock with sugar, that will help a bunch.
Wow, that's great information. I thought maybe you were going to say like an Epsom salt or something like that. And I was thinking, oh, that's going to burn like crazy. But
Epsom salt does work, but it burns bad. Copper tox also works, but that is is going to burn the tissue, the live tissue that's there. Sugar will just pull it out. Now, you're going to have to change that dressing once a day, every couple days if you can, but that's just an easy way to get ahead of it if you can.
Another good one I would say would be charcoal. If you can get
Yes.
your hands on charcoal, it should just, a lot of people don't think of it, but that it should be something in your barns ready to
Right.
go.
It's a good toxin binder for gut health for a lot of stuff.
Literally, my husband's using it on his finger. He about ripped off while working cows. His finger is like straight black now because of it. But it's one of those things that it works for all animals. It works for you.
Right.
Yeah. Scours, all that.
Yep.
But coating it in that, I would think would help. Same as sugar, wouldn't you say? Just draw that
for
out.
sure.
Pain-free, draw it out.
But the biggest thing is catching it fast enough. That's huge with foot rot.
It is huge.
Absolutely huge. And hoping that you pick the right drug the first time.
Yeah, learned that the hard way on poor Harold. But Harold, he's getting around just fine on...
Oh, yeah. Once they get used to it, they'll be just fine.
He doesn't fight as much with the other bulls as he used to. But he's severely overweight because I feel like chondros seem to carry... they're about as round as they are tall.
They are. And their joints just don't allow them to travel as much as they should.
Right.
There again, part of the deal with the chondros.
Do you have anything else on your list?
So the other thing is when somebody like me shows up at your place, it's not going to look anything like TikTok or Facebook or YouTube. The cows that you see getting trimmed on those places are 90%, 99.9% are going to be commercial dairy cows that are used to going into chutes. They're used to getting their feet worked on 3 times a year. When the hoof trimmer shows up, just know it's not going to look anything like that. The other thing is make sure your hoof trimmer knows what you have. Make sure he knows that they're horn cattle. Make sure he knows that they're small cattle, because I've heard a lot of horror stories where people have said, oh, the hoof trimmer showed up and he turned right around and left because he found out that I had horn cattle that were small and he refuses to deal with them. Just make sure when you contact somebody that they know what you have.
That's great. So is there anything else for somebody new looking to buy? Maybe we covered.
Yeah, I think we covered a lot of that. Look for heel depth is a big thing. You're not going to find a lot of Highlanders that have enough heel. Like I said, that's just the breed. Jersey cows are the same way. They just don't have enough heel. That's the biggest thing. Heel depth, that's what I look for. When I'm evaluating something as far as hoof quality, that's the biggest thing I look for, is how deep the heel is and what the angle of that hairline is, which goes back to how much heel is there.
And for that, you guys can just look up online and a lot of pictures online that shows the correct what their feet should look like too.
The other thing is there's 3 different types of trim. Right? So there's a therapeutic trim where if they're lame, where they need a little extra carving out, relieving abscesses and ulcers, and that's the videos you see on YouTube that get really nasty and really disgusting. The other thing is show trim. A show trim, you're making that foot look as big and wide and structurally correct as possible. What I will say with animals that get a show trim, please have them trimmed at a normal maintenance trim after they're done showing, because the angles are different. What you're trying to do is different. And those show animals get fed different. Those feet are growing faster and longer than anything else just because of that's what they're getting fed.
Oh, yeah. I think John has ours on like 7 different things right now.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because we're heading to Denver soon.
Right. And what I would suggest is, like next spring, when I come back through, is we look at those show animals and just make sure that they're balanced back up, because they've been getting pushed pretty hard.
Well, actually, right now, he's trying to get some weight off of a couple of ours that are heading that direction.
Does he have the treadmill yet?
I tell you what, I think he needs it, because he goes out there like 2 hours every night. And I'm like, did they lose any weight while you were out there staring? I'm like, did they grow more rib? Did they?
Right.
Is it helping you to stare
That's
at him
sometimes the tough part of evaluating cattle is when you see them every day, you don't see the little things. So one of the things I would suggest is to take a picture of your animal once a week, once a month, and then look at those pictures side by side and just see what that animal's doing. Is she getting fatter? Because like I said, if you're seeing these animals every day, you will not be able to see the little changes day after day after day. But if you evaluate them a week apart, a month apart, you'll be able to see the toes grow longer. Is this cow getting fatter or thinner? Is this bull's testicle development coming the way it should? I mean, there's a lot of stuff that can be evaluated easier in a longer time duration versus day to day. Now, you need to look at those cows day to day. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying don't look at them every day. What I'm saying is have a visual reference, a landmark, if you will, to tell the difference when you're looking at them every day.
Awesome. That's all great information.
So I got some questions for you, Hill Adam, since we haven't chatted much.
Yeah, we've been trying to do this for about 2 months now.
I know, right? Last time you were here, goodness, we chatted forever. We talked ultrasound. We talked other things. Are you planning on adding that in? Or is that going to be something down the road? What are we thinking?
I will be at some point. I have to be really careful about advertising those services because you get into licensing issues and veterinary issues. And I think eventually I'll have one on board, but I won't be able to necessarily advertise that it's on board. It'll be when you contact me for services, I'll just mention that I have it on board and if they need done while they're in the chute. And as far as that goes, especially with these horn cattle, the less times through the chute, the better. So if there's anything that we need to do while they're in there, vaccinations. I was just at a place the other day where we pulled some grubs off of some heifers while they were in the chute. And anything we can do while they're in the chute, let's do it. Preg checks we've done where we set them up to breed or put cedars in while they're in the chute. Anything they're in the chute, let's do it.
So that's something that just people listening to, when you contact Adam, just be like, is it okay? Like, do you have this in your time schedule? Can we vaccinate these calves? We're going to pull some hairs or tag calves or something.
Right.
And you can look at your schedule and be like, nah, I got to go 3 different places. Or if it works out, then they can talk to you about those kind of things.
You can let me know when they get a hold of me the first time, and then I can just make sure that we make enough time. And I try to build enough time through the day. I struggle sometimes with standing around and talking too much sometimes and looking at good cows for too long. And sometimes that puts me behind, but whatever's best for the cow while we're working that cow, let's do it. If it puts me an hour behind, so be it. Let's do it.
But let's try to make sure that you've got it in your time schedule, because we tried to do tags one time between doing cedars and vaccinations, and oh my goodness, you would not have enough time for it all.
I mean, I do some bigger beef herds. We're doing basically a hoof inspection before their sale, but I'm doing that at the same time as we're doing testicle measurements. We're doing yearling weights. We're doing a lot of different stuff in 2 or 3 different chutes lined up front to back where, I mean, it's all rolling through where we're doing.
That makes sense.
200 in 3 days. Those are not my favorite stops.
That makes sense. And I do know, back to that ultrasound thing, some states require you to be an actual veterinarian.
Right. You get into internal versus external medicine, and it's no different than me suggesting Draxxin or something like that. Like, I legally can't tell anyone what to give their cow, but I'm telling you that's what she needs.
At least have it on hand. That's great information. If you have a good relationship with your vet, I really Taylor and I both always recommend on all of our podcasts to make sure that you have got a good relationship with your vet. You've had him out to see those cattle. If I buy something new, my vet is out here pretty much the next day. My vet check my animals over, make sure everything's okay. And then that way she's seen the animal. So if you call, or like for me, I can send a video to my vet. Like if I've got a hoof rot or whatnot, I can send a video to my vet and say, what's your thoughts? And she'll tell me what to give. But for me, I have to drive 35 miles to her, whether it be something in the middle of the night or it has to be. If I've got a good relationship with my vet, I've got it on hand. So like the ones that you suggested for foot rot, if you've got something like that on hand, it'll make your life easier by having that relationship with your vet.
Well, I think you covered it with your vet when you had her on. Anybody new into this deal, find a vet before you buy the calf, because I get to a lot of places that they can't find large animal vets and they're having to drive hours and hours and hours, and then it's still a nightmare.
And you're going to have major troubles if you're breeding those and have
Right.
to drive that far you're going to have a lot of losses.
Right.
Go to school then. Go to that Graham school, right? 5
You're
days.
right.
You learn so much for if you're in
Right.
those situations and you don't have a vet on hand. I mean, why not?
There's a lot of cattle in this part of the business that get traded a long ways away, from Nebraska to Florida, from Washington to Virginia. I mean, they're long distance stuff. Okay.
Mhm.
What happens with long distance, the transport is one thing. More of my concern is the grass and the hay that these calves are eating before they're sold versus after they're sold. My suggestion, a lot of people talk about care packages that go with calves when they're sold, is my suggestion is send a bale or two of hay with that calf so they have at least something to get them started wherever they're going, because the grass, if it's a long distance, the grass and the hay is completely different. You can go from good, hard, really densely made grass like it's in Nebraska, and then you take that calf to Florida where it's green and it's washy and can look full and still be starving to death because that grass is just full of water and there's no nutrients in it. Their gut's not used to that different grass. So if you can send some with them to kind of get them over that hump and get them started wherever they're going, that's going to benefit that calf and your program a lot.
Great advice. Also, make sure that your transporter has room for it.
Right, that too.
Is the only issue there. We do send, because most of ours that we sell are calves, we do send or feed a bag of the grain mix that we eat with them. That is helpful. But that's another thing. Make sure you're checking with your nutrition or nutritionist, your feed stores, and talk to them about where they're coming from and what you should be putting them on. Right, Taylor?
Yep.
Taylor doesn't have quite all the hands-on that Jason has with the feed store, but she knows enough about it.
I know who to call.
Right, right. And sometimes that's half the battle.
Yeah, I mean, truly.
Yep, for sure. Well, I think we've got most of it all covered. What do you guys think?
So, Adam, what's your route look like? Are you all booked up or where are you going next?
I am sitting at the edge of the Grand Canyon right now. I am headed in the next week. I'll be in Texas. By the middle of February, I'll be to Florida, and then we'll start heading north from there. Pretty booked. The ball is really starting to roll.
I'm so glad.
It is really rolling now. We're starting to get into making more videos and reels, and not to spread too many rumors too fast. We're going to start a YouTube channel probably this summer, dealing with Highlanders and homesteaders and educational stuff and
That's awesome.
stuff like that. We're going to 4 or 5 different conferences to speak on hoof health this year.
Is Melissa coming with you?
To the conferences, yes. She is not made for living out of a pickup. Yeah.
That's hard life what you're doing.
So it's just me and the dog. She's poked her head in here a couple times, I've seen.
I wondered if you got her yet.
I have. So she's out of one of yours, right?
Yeah, she's a granddaughter. It's cool. Small world. I have
Yeah.
to say, guys, when Adam came to my place, I don't think he knew what he was getting into.
Had no clue.
I brought in a couple of my little girls, and the Chute was not prepared for it. And they were literally, we had a couple of them, they just like walked out the side. They were like, yep, we ain't doing this, and like just slipped out the slide. And
Or the front.
Yep, or the front. We had a couple do that, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
You come back the second time and you had fabricated that to fit amazing. Like
Yep.
it looked great. I think he thought I was crazy. Like, so when he came, so you worked with Highlands, like full size Highlands somewhere else, and you come to our place.
I think Jeremy's was the first place I
Yeah.
did Highlands, and then yours was the second.
And so Melissa was there, Trevor was there. Trevor was so much help.
And it was so hot.
It was
It was
hot. And
so
Melissa was
hot.
playing with my boys, keeping them occupied. And I got to telling you, and I was like, this is a niche thing. You need to pursue this because so many people just don't have the time or don't want to work
Right.
with these little cows. It just, man, it was like wildfire. I love it. I'm so excited for you.
As far as I know, there's this chute that I have, and there's one tilt table that are built specifically for horned cattle in the whole country. Mine is a stand-up chute. They don't tip over, so I can do pregnant cows up until 30 days before they're due safely. We take our time. We're not in a rush.
Yep.
The tilt table that this guy in Texas has is built for Longhorns, but he can do Highlanders and minis in there. So it's a whole different deal where it opens from the side, and they got to be fairly calm to get in there just for the way it opens and closes, but it works really well for like really longhorned Longhorns. Like he's had 140-inch Longhorns in there before, where they get up on their side and the horn is actually resting on the ground that long. I can't do that long horn in mine. I've had about an 80-incher in there, and that's about the limit.
Before you came out, we were using my brother-in-law's dairy, the ones that he uses for his person he uses for his dairy. But he had yet, Thelma, my little black one that she's been dehorned, one that size, I don't know if he could do, honestly.
I don't know. Like on a standard tilt table, I was trained on a tilt table 23 years ago, commercial dairy, but I can't wrap my head around doing some of these minis or even horn cattle on a tilt table. Like I can't figure out
how they would do it,
how that would work safely for the cow and for the people working on it, because those leg straps and stuff on a tilt table are meant for dairy cows. I mean, all these trim chutes are built for dairy cows when they come out of the factory. So big cows.
And that's great, though, because you got my jerseys. You can get my jerseys through.
Right.
And then you're able to get my little girls through now without them deciding to slip on through.
Right.
That was hilarious. The first little one I brought through, I kid you not, she would just like walked right out the side.
Just gone.
Well,
I'm out.
We need to do her. Okay, we're done.
Yep.
Guess we're not doing that one.
Yep.
Yep.
She had other plans.
And then this crash gate that we put on the front has made working these horn cattle so much easier.
I want the thing you have on the back that like pushes them through. For my own chute, like just for working cows. I don't know why people don't have that.
I have no idea. I can't figure that out either. Why some of the bigger companies have not put that sweep in.
It makes everything so much smoother, and the cows are calmer. I mean, you're not having to whack on them or get them through.
It's the Temple Grandin effect. They're tight from front to back and they're tight from side to side. I mean, they're essentially being almost cocooned in there. Yeah, they can thrash and flop, and they will. Anybody that's never had a hoof trim before, they're gonna act dumb. They're just gonna pull and fight, but
lay down.
Having them lay down, jerseys will be the worst, but having them as tight as you can get them safely, having them contained like that, it just makes them relax. Pushing them in helps a lot, but then having them contained. Yep. It's come a long way since the first time it was out there, hasn't it, Taylor?
Oh my gosh.
And I didn't even make it out the day you were out here.
It is a custom chute.
There's not much left that's original.
And it works out great with what you're doing because, I mean, look at you. You're booked up, traveling the nation.
Yeah. I think in 2026, we're already scheduled in 44 different states.
That is awesome.
And actually, I just had a request 2 weeks ago from Alaska, and I'm like, that might be a bucket list trip, but that's not a just run up there and trim a dozen cows trip.
That drive with, I don't know.
And your chute is so low. So that's a
Getting
thing.
through
for
Canada might be interesting.
Yeah, that would be hard.
Yeah, that drive, I don't know.
The gravel roads and stuff alone on your chute.
Oh, yeah, it's fun. Just put it in four-wheel drive and just keep pulling.
Just nice and easy.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I think we're running out of time here. I am so happy that we got to finally get you on. We'd been working on it for a while. It was either our schedules or your schedule, or a lot of it was our schedule.
Water tanks and electricity and all their fun ranch stuff.
All the things.
Yep, all the things.
I have always been a fly by the seat of my pants all the time. I know I'm not an organized person whatsoever. So we call somebody up and we're like, hey, how about today? Can we get this done?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate having you on, and safe travels.
Absolutely.
Sounds like you've got a lot going on.
Yeah, it's pretty busy.
Check him out, guys, on Facebook. He can help you out. He's good.
No, thank you.
He has his own Facebook page, and we will link it on this podcast. Yeah, when I go grab it.
Cool.
Anyway, thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time on Horns and Hooves.
Bye, guys. Thanks, Adam.
You bet.